Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, our group will present one of the experimental design type, which is completely randomized design on the effect of four different fruit flavored drinks on consumer preference. So, what is CRD? So, CRD is a basic single factor, meaning it's an experimental design with only one independent variable or factor. CRD is also assigned completely at random so that each experimental unit has the same chance of receiving any one treatment. Next is the experimental units are homogeneous and best suited with experiment with a small number of treatment.
For problem statement, consumer preferences for fruit-flavored drinks are influenced by several factors, including the type of fruit flavor. However, it is not well understood how much specific fruit flavors affect consumer preference compared to other factors. So, to address this gap, this study aims to investigate the impact of four different fruit flavors on consumer preference for fruit-flavored drinks within a single brand. So for the research question, do four different flavor of fruit flavored drinks within a single brand have effect on consumers' preference? So objectively, our study aims to determine do four different flavors of fruit flavored drinks within a single brand have effect on consumers' preference. So for hypothesis, we assume that there is no significant difference in overall preference among the four flavored drink within the same brand for H0. For HA, at least one flavored drink is significantly preferred over other three flavored drink within the same brand.
So the advantages of CRD. So firstly, it's simpler than other experimental design as it does not require blocks. Next is it has a high flexibility of number of treatment and replication. It is also yields a maximum degree of freedom for experimental error, which makes the loss of information due to the missing data are small.
The disadvantages of CRT are it is the least efficient design, it can lose of precision if experimental units are not homogeneous, and it not suitable for a large number of treatments.
So the first component is treatment. So there are four treatment used in this experiment, which represent the four flavors of the fruit drink. So A is mango tango flavor, B lemon flavor, C grape flavor, and D is fruit passion flavor. So the next component is replication. So replication represents the panelists. So in this experiment, there are five number of panelists who are tasting the fruit flavored drink, which makes the number of replication is five. So the next component is experimental units. So experimental units in this experiment represents the samples ranking of panelists towards the fruit flavor in range between 1 to 4. Number 1 indicates the least preferred flavor and number 4 indicates the most preferred flavor.
For explanation, randomization, replication, and control variables. Okay, and then randomization. What is randomization? Randomization is a basic idea in experimental design and statistical analysis. It is one of the technique of randomly assigning experimental units, participants, or treatments to various conditions in an experiment. The basic goal or the primary goal of randomization is to eliminate or remove or adjust for potential biases and guarantee that any differences detected across groups are most likely due to the experimental treatments rather than other explanatory factors. So we break it into three parts, which are treatment assignment, randomized allocation, and randomization objective. So for the treatment assignment, we for each sample of flavor infused string A, B, C, and D randomly assigned to a replication. And randomized allocation, assignment process is completely randomized, which are the primary goal is to ensure unbiased distribution across replications. So we want to avoid any error that could occur in the experiment that we observing. And then we go through the replication. What is replication? Replication is the repetition of a full experiment or a specific treatment condition within an experiment. Replication is a basic notion that improves the resilience, dependability, and validity of scientific findings. So replication assignment in our experiment, in our data, each flavor infused string treatment A, B, C, and D randomly assigned to a replication. Replication amount 5 replication for each treatment. So total experimental units 4 treatments times to the 5 replications equal to 20 experimental units. And then control variables. Control variables, to enhance the internal validity of our study, we carefully implemented control variables in our experimental design. So what is the definition of control variables? Control variables are factors that could potentially influence the outcome of, but are systemically held constant or monitored to isolate the effects of the independent variable. So it basically means that if we don't control the variables, it will affect the outcome of our experiment, such as like in fertilizer, we don't control the type of fertilizer, then it will affect the growth of the plant, particular plant. But in this experiment, it is different. And then control variables, the continuation from before. For the experiment, there are some control variables that we will not allow it to roam freely. Therefore, we keep eye on it to make sure the data that we got is accurate and precise. There are two variables, which is one of them we manipulate, and the other one, the variable that we want to observe. So there are another name for this variable, which are dependent variable. Dependent variable is what we want to observe. So dependent variable here in our experiment is consumer preferences towards different infused flavored drinks. And then independent variable is the manipulated variable. Those variable that we control it, which is the different flavor infused drinks, the 4 different flavor of the flavor infused drink. And then the last one is constant variable, which are the constant. We will keep the same for each replication, for each treatment. So for constant variable for this experiment are number of consumers observed and the volume of the sample that have been given to the each panelist. Thank you.
Methodology. The treatment consists of 4 different flavors of fruit-flavored drinks. A is mango tango, B is lemon, C is grape, and D is fruit fusion. For replication, each flavor treatment is tested with a set of 5 participants, resulting in 5 replications for each treatment. The experimental units consist of 4 treatments times 5 replication equal to 20 experimental units. The study is conducted in a controlled testing environment with consistent room temperature, lighting, and sensory evaluation conditions. The fruit-flavored drink samples are presented in identical cups, and the order of presentation is randomized to avoid any other effects. Data collection. Participants will taste and rank each fruit-flavored drink based on a scale from 1 least perfect to 4 most perfect. Writing ballots method are used to acquire the sample data. Data on preferences will be recorded after each testing session. Data analysis. Statistical analysis, such as analysis of variance ANOVA, will be conducted to determine if there are significant differences in consumer preferences among the 4 flavored beverages. Post hoc tests may be performed if significant differences are found. This shows the calculation of CRD step by step that totally consists of 9 steps. For calculation of the ANOVA table, we have decided to calculate manually and using Excel. This is because to provide a clear comparison for the outcomes. Both calculations shows that it gives the same results where mean square of the treatment is 1.67, mean square for the error is 1.25, and F calculated value is 1.33. The results show that F calculated value is equal to 1.336. F critical value from the table at 5% equal to 3.24, and at 1% it is equal to 5.29. This can be summarized that F calculated value for both 5% and 1% at 316 are less than F critical value from the table. To conclude, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. Thus, there is no significant difference among the four flavored drinks within the same brand.